Welcome back to News Talk and our post-primary analysis with Valerie Irvin, Robert McCartney, and Josh Kurtz. Let's talk about what Congresswoman Donna Edwards said in those remarkable comments she made from the podium at her party last night during her concession speech. Valerie Irvin, she took the party to task. She took the party head-on issues of race and gender and a seat at the table. What was she saying? You were there. Give us a flavor of the substance. What is the issue?
It was a very powerful and defiant message that she was giving to a Democratic crowd, her base, which was to say, we are not being taken seriously in the Democratic Party, even though we are almost the majority of voters in Democratic primaries. So if the Democrats are not going to take us seriously, we need to have a discussion about what that would look like if we made certain decisions about how we want to proceed into the future.
What does it mean not to be taken seriously? What does that phrase refer to?
I think it refers to when the Democratic Party establishment chose to go after the Congresswoman in the way that they did in this race, which got really, you talk about dog whistle politics, you know what that is, like you use terminology and phrases intended to evoke a certain reaction. Well, they were using a foghorn.
It's kind of a speaking in code.
It's speaking in code. It was a foghorn.
And who, in this race, who were the messengers and what was the message?
I think there were lots of surrogates for the Van Hollen campaign. I don't know them all by name. The surrogates were through super PACs, through people in the state party at the level of like a Steny Hoyer or a Mike Miller or the power brokers in the Maryland Democratic Party, mostly white men, who saw this as a race that had to be won. For whatever reason, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But the way we, as African-American, proud and loyal Democrats feel over time is not just Donna's election, but what happened in Anthony Brown's election. Why can't a black person win a statewide race? Kwesi Mfume. I mean, I could keep going on and on. What is it about Maryland that we are still in a place that we have to continually have these conversations? I'm from Montgomery County, where there has never been an African-American woman to win a delegate seat or a Senate seat in her own right. That is really disturbing. And as Mr. McCartney knows, in 2011, he came to the Montgomery County Council. We had a press conference about the redrawing of the district lines around this, well, we have a crazy...
The gerrymandering.
Gerrymandering. And a lot of that was really about how those lines really supported or not supported people of color running for office.
So we have about 5 minutes left. Bob and Josh weigh in on what Congresswoman Edwards said and what Valerie Irvin says.
Well, I think that a lot of Democrats care a lot about inclusiveness. And I think that Edwards certainly struck a nerve with her comments last night, and that we're going to hear much more about it. I mean, you saw how Jamie Raskin dealt with it. I mean, he was sort of emphasizing, the importance of promoting inclusiveness for African Americans and other people of color, for women. The problem with the argument right now is that first of all, a lot of top African American Democrats in this race supported Van Hollen. I mean, Rashern Baker, African-American county executive in Prince George's County, Ike Leggett, African-American county executive in Montgomery, Jack Young, African-American city council president in Baltimore. They were for Van Hollen. And so that sort of hurt her cause. I think that she had, poor relations with the establishment. Edwards had poor relationships with the establishment even before this campaign, and that cost her.
And Josh, there were other issues too, and I don't say this to diminish what you say. I don't endorse what you say. I'm just trying to see the whole playing field, and there were other issues. There was a sense for some that Donna, this notion of do you work across the aisle to try to craft compromise, as arguably Congressman Van Hollen has, something that is not sort of Donna Edwards' default approach. There's been a sense from Prince George's pals that I've talked to for a long time that she doesn't sort of play well in the sandbox with others. And there's the constituent service question, where he seems to excel and where there have been long-standing complaints about her office's ability to get things done for constituents. So arguably there was a lot there were a lot of balls in the air here.
Right. And I think, I think some of these issues that were raised about Congresswoman Edwards and her ability to get along with elected officials and the question of constituent service, they were not illegitimate, but, there's a line, does she not get along with them, with other elected officials because there's sort of this quiet, latent sexism and racism, or is it a personality thing? I mean, it's kind of hard to know.
It's hard to unpack.
This is a conversation that's been going on for, I've been writing about it for over 15 years about, the Democratic establishment taking minority voters for granted.
Something Wayne Curry talked about a lot during his life.
Yeah, even a younger Ike Leggett. It's interesting, if you look at kind of the division among African American leaders, the same county executives who endorsed Van Hollen also endorsed the redistricting plan a few years ago that Congresswoman Edwards and Valerie, they were among the more vocal opponents. So even within the community of black Democratic leaders, there's a divide.
Only 40 seconds left. Where do you see this going, and what presumably Donna Edwards continues to speak out passionately on these issues?
There's no doubt. I think, to Mr. McCartney's point about the establishment African Americans who supported Chris Van Hollen, there were just as many on the other side who were younger, who were like Mosby from Baltimore, like Black Lives Matter movement makers. Lots of people understood Congresswoman Edwards' plea to listen to us and really be a big tent party because it makes us stronger. So I think moving forward, you're going to hear a lot more about this from different people, not just from Congresswoman Edwards.
Valerie Irvin, Josh Kurtz, Robert McCartney, great analysis following a blockbuster night. Terrific hour. Thank you all very much for being here today, as always. We'll step aside. We're back, though, with a News Talk program note right after this.